The sun rose slowly over Ediora, its golden light spilling across the city like honey over cracked earth. The wind carried two songs at once, one of the old world, one of the new. From the distant hills came the soft beat of market drums, steady and timeless, echoing from a past that refused to die. But mingling with those ancient rhythms were the impatient horns of yellow taxis and the hum of machines that never slept. Ediora was a city standing on 2 feet, one buried deep in ancestral dust, the other resting on polished glass. The streets told stories of both the sacred and the restless. Children ran barefoot past billboards that glittered with promises of success, while old women still tied wrappers around their waists and whispered prayers to gods whose names had outlived kings. Near the city's heart stood the old shrines, crumbling, half forgotten, but alive in their silence. Clay idols sat beneath cobwebs, their eyes carved to watch, their mouths sealed by time. They stood in the shadow of glass towers that reached for the sky, monuments of ambition that sparkled even under the weight of dust. The skyscrapers glowed with the pride of men who had traded ancestral blessings for concrete dreams. A faint wind stirred, weaving between the narrow alleys and wide roads. It carried scents of roasted maize, burning rubber, and incense from hidden altars. Somewhere, a masquerade's distant chant tangled with the laughter of office workers stepping out for breakfast. Yet beneath the noise and brightness, something ancient stirred uneasily. The ancestors, unseen but ever present, moved like whispers in the air. They had watched Ediora grow, from a humble settlement beneath baobab trees into a restless city that now bowed before glass and steel. Their voices lingered in the wind, soft and mournful. "Balance has been broken," the whispers said. "The dust forgets its roots, the towers forget their shadows." A paper danced through the street, catching sunlight as it flew past an old shrine's doorway, where a candle flickered weakly against the wind. The flame wavered but did not die, as though the spirit of Ediora still fought to breathe beneath the choking smoke of progress. Far above, from one of the tallest towers, a figure watched through the tinted glass, but that was a tale yet to come. For now, Ediora stood suspended between memory and desire, its heart beating to 2 different drums, one of the ancestors, one of ambition. The moon hung proudly over Ediora that night, bathing the civic hall in a silvery glow. Inside, the chandeliers blazed like captured stars. The sound of drums blended with soft jazz, creating a rhythm that seemed to bridge the ancestors and the modern world. Powerful men in fine suits and jeweled women glided across the marble floor, their laughter echoing like coins clinking in hidden pockets. Kem stepped into the hall, her beauty stealing the light for a brief moment. Her gown was borrowed, but she wore it as though it had been woven by queens. Heads turned. Murmurs followed her like perfume. Beneath her calm smile, her heart beat fast, not from humility, but from hunger. Her eyes found him easily. Ayo Daramola, the billionaire everyone whispered about. He stood at the center of the hall, tall, still, composed. His aura carried both power and silence, a man carved from patience and sweat. When their gazes met, the air seemed to pause. Kem's lips curved slightly. "So that's him," she murmured to her friend beside her. "The man who rose from dust to diamonds. Tonight he will see me." Ayo watched her approach, his expression unreadable. She moved with practiced grace, the way a hunter stalks prey while pretending to be harmless. When she reached him, she offered her hand with confidence. "Mr. Daramola," she said softly, her voice like warm honey. "Your work for Ediora's Youth Foundation inspires me." Ayo took her hand gently, his gaze steady. "Inspiration is good," he replied. "But work is better." She laughed lightly, trying to mask her discomfort. "Oh, I believe in both." But Ayo's eyes saw deeper than her charm, beyond the shimmering gown, beyond the painted smile. He sensed something hollow beneath the glitter, a spirit dancing to a tune not its own. Across the hall, a drumbeat quickened, ancient, unseen hands warning of imbalance. The ancestors' presence thickened in the air, invisible but heavy. One of them seemed to whisper through the flickering candles. When beauty enters the house of power, the spirits must watch closely. Enkem tilted her head, pretending not to notice the sudden chill. Her laughter returned, bright and careless, as she sipped from her glass and leaned closer to Io. He listened quietly, his silence like a mirror reflecting her hidden greed. For a moment, neither spoke. Only the distant drums filled the gap between them, and in that silence, the night sealed their fates, for the ancestors, watching unseen from the corners of the hall, knew this was no simple meeting. It was the beginning of a dance, one between hunger and discipline, illusion and truth, beauty and power. Weeks melted into one another like candle wax under a slow flame. The days of small talk and shy smiles between Io and Enkem had turned into something else, an arrangement wrapped in luxury and illusion. Each time Enkem appeared at Io's office, she left with something new: a gold bracelet, a designer bag, a sparkling necklace that caught the city light like fire. But these were not gifts of love. They were tests. Io, ever the silent observer, wanted to see how she would carry wealth, whether it would humble her or consume her. Kem did not disappoint him, at least not in the way she thought. Every gift became a trophy for her vanity. She posed before mirrors, posted online, and wrote captions like, "Mrs. Billionaire in waiting." Her friends cheered in the comments, "Queen energy." "You've made it, girl." But far away, her mother sat on her wooden stool, staring at her phone screen in silence. The old woman's sigh was long and deep, like wind passing through dry reeds. "Child," she whispered to the air, "you are dancing on sand." At the Daramola Towers, whispers began to stir. The staff noticed her absence during meetings, the way she arrived late and left early, perfume announcing her before her work did. Papers piled on her desk untouched. When questioned, she smiled sweetly, saying, "Oh, Io trusts me with higher things." In the break room, voices whispered, "She's not a partner. She's decoration. She brings no value, only vanity." But the boss seems to let her be. Ao heard the rumors but said nothing. He watched from afar, his calm face revealing nothing, his silence sharper than any rebuke. He knew what he was doing. Patience was his weapon, and truth, his ally. One evening, Enkem stood before a mirror in her luxury apartment, adjusting her diamond earrings. Her reflection smiled back, perfect, flawless, untouchable. "Look at me now," she said softly to herself, twirling. "They called me lazy, but who's winning now?" But as she turned, the reflection flickered, the lights dimmed for a second, and for the briefest moment, her image in the mirror looked older, hollow-eyed, stripped of glitter. She blinked, then laughed. "Maybe I just need more sleep." Outside, the night wind whispered through the city like an unseen spirit. The ancestors, restless, watched from the shadows of the moon. One voice murmured, sorrowful and wise, "Pride wears a crown of gold, but its throne is made of air." Enkem, wrapped in silk and illusion, felt untouchable, never knowing that every step she took forward was bringing her closer to the edge. The moon sat heavy in the sky that night, round and watchful, its silver light spilling through the open windows of Daramola Towers. The sound of laughter drifted from the staff lounge, laughter mixed with secrets, with stories not meant to travel far. Enkem had stayed late at the office, pretending to review files, but her ears followed the sound like a hunter's dog following a scent. Inside, 3 of Ao's staff sat around a small table, bottles of palm wine glistening under the dull light. Their words were soaked in drink and boldness. "Ah," one man said, tapping his glass, "you people don't know the boss like I do. That man tests every woman before he marries her." The others gasped, leaning in. "A test? What kind of test?" He lowered his voice, eyes darting to the door. "A secret test. He gives them wealth, comfort, and freedom, just to see what they'll do. Only those who remain humble pass. The rest—" He paused and drew a slow line across his neck. "Are forgotten." The laughter that followed was harsh, careless, like stones thrown into still water. Outside, Enkem froze. Her hand trembled against the door frame. The word struck her chest like thunder, a secret test. For a long time she stood there, her breath thin, her mind racing. Then slowly, a smile crept across her face, cold and confident. "So, it's a game, huh?" she whispered. "Then let's see who wins." Greed twisted her thoughts like dry vines in Harmattan wind. She told herself she was too clever, too beautiful to fail. "He thinks he's testing me," she murmured, staring at her reflection in the dark window. "But I'll be the one testing him." That night, when sleep finally took her, the veil between worlds opened. In her dream, she stood beneath a towering baobab tree. The wind moaned through its branches like the cries of forgotten souls. Around her the air shimmered with the presence of the ancestors, their faces carved from smoke and moonlight. The earth itself seemed to breathe beneath her bare feet. A voice rose, deep, echoing, ancient. The python that swallows what it cannot digest breaks itself apart. Another followed, softer, sorrowful, child of vanity beware. What glitters on your skin may poison your heart. Inkem's eyes darted around. "Who are you? What are you saying? Are you? What are you saying?" But the voices only grew fainter, retreating into the wind. The baobab's roots trembled, and from its hollow trunk came a hiss, long and low, like a warning from something unseen. She woke with a gasp, her body covered in sweat. For a moment, the darkness in her room seemed alive, the shadows dancing like spirits watching her. She forced a laugh, shaking her head. "Dreams," she said, reaching for her phone. "Just foolish dreams." Yet as she scrolled through her messages, her hands would not stop trembling. Outside, the wind howled softly through the city, carrying the whispers of unseen eyes. And though she pushed the dream aside, a strange unease settled over her heart, quiet but heavy, like the stillness before a storm that knows exactly where it will strike. The sun leaned gently over Ediora village, spreading warmth across the farmlands and thatched roofs. Morning birds sang from the tall baobab trees, and the sound of pestles striking yam echoed like drums of diligence. In the midst of this life, Inkem walked through the compound with a notebook clutched to her chest, pretending to be busy. She bent over the women shaping bricks for the new women's center, nodding seriously and asking questions she barely understood. "So, how many bags of cement will we need?" she asked with a polite smile. Before they could answer, she was already turning away, her mind far from the dust and sweat of honest work. Her heart was not in the project. Her thoughts glittered elsewhere, in the city lights, the fancy shops, the world of soft music and silk dresses. That night, as the villagers rested, Inkem sat under the dim glow of a lantern, her phone lighting her face. Her fingers danced across the screen, searching for designer handbags and jewelry. A satisfied smirk crossed her lips. "Just a little money from this project," she whispered to herself. "And I will finally open my own boutique. Who will stop me then?" From the other side of the courtyard, Io watched her silently. His face was calm, unreadable. The flickering lantern cast long shadows behind him, and his eyes carried the weight of knowing. He had seen the hunger in her eyes, not the hunger for progress, but for glory. When Inkem noticed him, she quickly smiled and waved. "My love, I'm just reviewing the expenses," she said sweetly, flipping her notebook shut. Ao nodded slowly. "Good," he replied. "The people trust you. Use that trust wisely." She laughed lightly, pretending not to notice the seriousness in his tone, but his gaze lingered on her a little longer, the silence between them thick as palm oil in a cold pot. Outside, the crickets sang their nightly chorus, and through their rhythm came a whisper carried by the wind, soft yet haunting, ancient yet clear. The one who builds on lies will be buried beneath their walls. The palm leaves rustled, though no wind passed through. The ancestors were awake, watching from the unseen, but Inkem, wrapped in her dreams of wealth and luxury, could not hear them. Her heart had grown too loud with ambition, and in that blindness, her fall had already begun, though she did not yet see the edge beneath her feet. The dust of the departing convoy settled slowly, carried by a wind that hummed through the trees. The drums had gone silent. The laughter had faded. Only the rustle of leaves and the sigh of the earth remained to witness her fall. Kem stood beneath the great baobab tree, the same one she had once called ugly and ancient. Now, its shadow loomed over her like judgment itself. Her golden gown, once bright and proud, was now coated in red dust. Her hair clung to her damp face as the hot wind circled around her, whispering secrets she could no longer ignore. She clutched her chest and looked toward the horizon where Io's convoy disappeared. "Io, please," she whispered, her voice trembling. But only the wind answered, carrying with it the faint echoes of laughter, dreams, and promises that would never return. Her knees gave way. She fell onto the red earth, the same earth she had once refused to touch. The dust embraced her, staining her skin as if claiming her back to humility. Tears flowed freely, carving small rivers through the dirt on her face. The spirit stirred. The baobab leaves trembled, though no storm passed. From the hollow of the wind came a whisper, ancient, sorrowful and final. You were given the crown of chance, but you wore it with pride, not purpose. Inkem covered her ears. But the voices echoed in her soul. Visions of what could have been danced before her eyes, the cheers of the villagers, the warmth of Io's love, the respect of a community. All gone, all traded for vanity and greed. A chill wind rose suddenly, circling her like unseen hands. Her fine clothes flapped wildly, and the golden earrings she once flaunted fell into the dust. The ancestors sighed through the branches of the baobab, their sorrow carried on the wind. In the distance, children's laughter faded into silence. The red dust swirled, then settled, leaving her kneeling in stillness. A queen without a crown, a woman who wanted everything but earned nothing. And as the sun dipped behind the hills, the moral of her story floated on the dying breeze, clear and timeless as an elder's wisdom. The hand that refuses to till the soil will never taste the harvest. The wind grew calm again, and for the first time, Inkem bowed her head to the earth. Not in pride, but in surrender. The market was alive with chatter, traders calling out prices, women haggling over tomatoes, and children darting between stalls with laughter on their lips. But for Inkem, the noise carried a different rhythm, one of shame, whispers, and lessons. As she arranged her handmade baskets on a small wooden table, a group of women passing by laughed softly. "Is that not the city, madam?" one of them said mockingly. "The one who once wore gold but couldn't lift a broom." Another replied, "Ah, she's learning the weight of coins now." The laughter stung, but Inkem only smiled faintly. She bowed her head and continued working, her hands weaving as if they understood patience better than her heart ever did. Every sale, every coin she earned felt heavier than gold, not in weight, but in meaning. An elderly woman stopped by, studying Inkem's baskets. "Your work is clean," she said kindly. "You weave with humility now." Inkem's eyes softened. "Yes, Mama. I'm learning that true beauty lies in the hands that build, not the lips that boast." The old woman nodded. "Good. The ancestors see your change." Weeks passed, and Inkem began to rebuild herself from within. She attended free seminars held at the community hall, always sitting quietly at the back, notebook in hand, listening more than she spoke. One afternoon, a speaker said, "True success is not what shines, but what serves." The word struck deep. That night, Inkem wrote the sentence on her wall, tracing it with slow care. She read it every morning before leaving for the market, her heart steady, her spirit calmer. Slowly, the gossip began to fade. The same people who once mocked her started greeting her with nods of quiet respect. Some even bought her baskets, complimenting her craftsmanship. The city that once turned its back now began to see her not as the fallen queen, but as a woman who had learned to rise again through work, humility, and patience. And somewhere beyond the marketplace, the ancestors smiled, their whispers faint but warm. Even the broken pot can still carry water if it learns to be humble.